Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Please go and hit the sub button, help me out with this channel, get me a little bit closer to that magic thousand number. It's in 162 as I record this, so I know I'm a long way off, but if you're watching my channel for the first time, please go on, just give me a sub, help me out, help me get there. Anyway, today's deck take is one I've been thinking about for a while, because I've been trying to think of something different to do with this card, and to be perfectly honest, it's probably one of the most linear commanders I have seen for a long time. Um, it's good, don't get me wrong, it's a good card, and you know what I'm talking about because you're already here, because you've seen the video description, so I'll stop talking to myself and look at the card. It's Thalia and the Gitrog monster. One white, black and green for a 4/4 human frog horror, and it's got first strike, death touch. You can play an additional land each turn. Creatures and non-basic lands our opponents control come into play tapped, and whenever we attack, we sack a land or a creature and we draw a card. Yeah, fine. It's got all the original abilities of either the Gitrog monster or Thalia, or one of the versions of Thalia. Yeah, the only thing it hasn't really got is non-creature spells cost one more. But I've spent literally a couple of weeks now trying to think of something that's slightly not involving a Abzan Lands Matters deck, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I couldn't come up with anything. It is just so, it is like I say, it's probably the most linear commander I've seen for ages. You may disagree with me. If you do, leave me a comment, but from my point of view, it is, you're going to play lands, you're going to do this. So I had to do it, and this is what we've come up with for today's deck. As usual, I'll start with the lands. I'm going to put a proviso in here. I do not own all of the original sack lands on MTGO. So I haven't got Wooded Foothills, I haven't got Verdant Catacombs, I haven't got Misty Rain Forest. Let's try and speak correctly. So they're not in the deck. If you own them and you've got them, put them in the deck. Replace some of the cards I'm going to mention in a minute with them. They are great. You do need them. It does make the deck a little bit better. But there are some cheaper alternatives that I've put in this deck, which I do own on MTGO. And they probably work just as well, to be fair. You still get the landfall triggers, which is what we're after. We still go and get well, basic lands in this case, but we still do go and get lands. So yeah, bear it in mind. Anyway, let's talk about the lands. The usual selection of white, green and black lands, but along with the few I have got, like Fabled Passage, Marsh Flats are two of the ones I do own. But then I decided to go back to Streets of New Capenna, if I remember correctly. Yep, and look at the hideout lands or the courtyards. They do the same thing. They go and get us a forest or a plains. They also have a slight upside, to my mind, in that we gain a life. Now, obviously, they come into play, they instantly die. You don't get a chance to tap them for mana unless you're very good on your triggers. I don't think you can before it sacrifices itself. But at the end of the day, they do trigger landfall, so you are still getting 2 landfall triggers a turn, which is really quite important in this deck. So just bear that in mind. The rest of the deck, pretty much you want to be, cost of the deck is going to be high when you look at the deck list that's down below, because Gaia's Cradle's in here, along with the couple of jewels, the original jewels that I do own, Savannah, Scrubland. The rest of it, you can drop them out, play other things, it's fine. I will point out that Cradle of Growth and Urborg can be quite key in this deck, so bear that in mind. And because we're playing a land matters deck, we're playing 39 lands in the deck. It's one of the highest levels of lands I've played in a long time in one of these deck takes. I've decided I cut down a little bit on the mana ramp. We've still got it there. So we've got Mana Crypt, we've got Soul Ring, and we've got Arcane Signet. That's really it. I didn't really go any further than that, because we are going to be hitting land drops quite regularly and finding lands, and it should work. So, as you probably gathered, it is a landfall deck. Oops, sorry. We do have a way of getting there. I'm just moving this around so that they're not quite hiding. But we are only playing 21 creatures in the deck, and we've got 39 other spells going on. One of those other spells is Jeweled Lotus. Now, I like Jeweled Lotus. Mono decks, dual colour decks will quite happily play Jeweled Lotus all day. As you know, Thalia and Gitrog is a 3-colour land creature. So why have I got it in here? The simple answer is this has a big target on its head as soon as you play it, unless you've got somewhere protecting it, like I've got Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots, Heroic Intervention, Teferi's protection, probably not Teferi's, but Heroic's fine. Unless you've got somewhere protecting it the turn you play it, you are putting, hello, come and get rid of me with Terminate, with anything else, a bounce spell, something or other. Well, no, not bounce spell, but any kill spell. And they're going to target and they're going to try and get rid of it. Therefore, that means the 4 mana cost that we have to play Thalia in the first place soon goes up to 6, soon goes up to 8, and eventually does probably go 10, 12, 14. Jeweled Lotus really helps you get around that extra mana costs, because you can sack it, and when you sack it off, it kind of pays what 1.5 parts of the commander tax. So yeah, you should be able to get it back out quite quickly, but don't play Jeweled Lotus early. There's no point when you're playing a 3-colour commander, but it's in here for that pure reason of covering the commander tax once it's been killed off. So that's me speech finished. Going on to 1-drops, Swords to Plowshare for a bit of removal, Vamp Tutor to go and find something we need, Birds of Paradise, Elves of Deep Shadow, Mystic, Fire Nord Elves, Landwar Elves, or Ramp. We've got Crop Rotation. This is the one card I want to have in my hand when I've got a couple of creatures in play, and a land I'm not particularly bothered about because we sack that land to go and get the Cradle. There's no other reason to do it, unless you've already got the Cradle in play, in which case, woohoo, go and get one of your Triomes or something. I would always use Crop Rotation to go and get the Cradle if I haven't already got it, especially with this deck, because once we get going, we'll have a lot of creatures in play and we'll be able to make a lot of mana off the Cradle very, very quickly. Over to the 2-drops, we've got Dam in. You can either play it for Dam and kill one creature, or overload it and do the Wrath of God effect. I mean, we have got Damnation a little bit further down, he says. There you go. So it's up to you which one you want to go with. Druid class helps us, we want to get up to level 2 to do the additional land drop, but the life gain's nice for dropping all the lands that we're going to be doing. Farseek goes and finds us one of the Triomes or something else we need, bear it in mind. Heroic Intervention protects everything, which I like. Cobra helps us ramp our mana. Nature's Law, 3 visits, go and find forest cards or equivalent forest cards, just so people remember, the Triome is a forest. You can also go and get things like Overgrown Tomb, can't think what else I've got in the deck, Savannah, Scrubland, maybe. No, you can't get Scrubland, you get Savannah though. Temple Garden, the usual selection, so bear it in mind, just go and get whichever one you've got. I would definitely go for the Triome if I hadn't got one in play to start with, before I go and get some of the basics. Unless there's some reason we need to have an untapped land coming to play, so bear that in mind. Protection-wise, I think I've mentioned it, Boots and Greaves, and the other bit of equipment I've chucked in the deck is Staff of Titania. I'm growing to enjoy this card more and more and more, and in this deck it gives you a creature that's also a land, so it triggers all your landfall stuff, so from my point of view that works really well. Over to 3-drop land, Teferi's Protection, just to keep us alive. The first of the landfall cards is here, Retreat of Hagra. We've got to have it in, and you're going to be doing the second bullet point on here. Each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Azusa helps us drop more lands as we play them. Cultivate, Kadoma's Reach, goes and searches out the forests and the islands and the swamps we need. One into play, one into the hand, and the chances are the one in the hand you'll be able to play the turn you cast one of these. Dryad of Elysian Groves lets us play the additional land, but it fixes our mana because it turns all our lands into every type of land in the game, which is great. So that means if you got this out, you're always going to have green, white, and black mana available. Ruminap Excavator lets us go and get some of those lovely lands out of our graveyard and put them back in play. Now, it is quite nice. I know I'm only playing 12 basics in the deck, but with the Ruminap Excavator, it does mean, occasionally you might get to the point where you can just play one of your sort of like streets lands and just go and gain that life and get the landfall trigger. Yes, you won't be able to go and get a land off it, but why not play it and just pad your life total a little bit? Retreat to Kazu is a choice depending on what creatures you've got in play. The +1/+1 counters are lovely on Thalia. The life gain is great if you're up against a lot of goblin decks that I've been seeing running around recently again for some reason. Tireless Provisioner is for the food, so we can gain the life, or the treasure token, so we can ramp even quicker into the good stuff. Eternal Witness just returns something from our graveyard to our hand. We all know what it does. And Tribute to the World Tree is another new card coming in from March of the Machine. I'm starting to enjoy this card already, I have to say, in Commander. Yes, the 3 green mana is a little bit tough to cast, but we've got enough ways of doing it. We can get there fairly early. And that extra card draw, or having our elves come in as 3/3s, or our bird of paradise come in as a 2/3, is quite good fun when it happens, and you do get comments in the chat. So, but the card draw is the main thing, and we do have a lot of things that go up for the 3 power side of things. Crucible of Worlds is just an artifact version of the Excavator, and then Sword of the Forge and Frontier is quite nice because it does give us the pro red, which is something I've been struggling with recently. And whenever we attack, we exile top 2 cards of our library. We can play them this turn, and we get to play an additional land, so it still helps us do our ramping side. Anointed Procession and Parallel Lives are both here because the amount of tokens we're going to be creating are things like Felidar Retreat, Smothering Tithe, Emiria Angel. Let's go through the other ones. Rampaging, Baloth, Avenger of Zendikar. We've got enough things in here that make tokens. It made perfect sense to me to have both versions of the token doublers in. A long one maybe Eletional and Eletional. So yeah, let's talk about it. We've got the new Eletional ones coming. I've picked one up, and I'm trying it in this deck. Am I convinced it fits in this deck? I'm not 100% sure. But whenever a source and opponent controls deal damage to you or permanent you control, it does mean that they all lose 2 life unless they pay 1. I'm not sure. I'm trying it out in here. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, Damnation I've mentioned. Garden and Project. Guardian. It should be Gardening Project in this deck. It would make more sense. But anyway, Guardian Project is there just so we get some extra card draw. Oracle of Muldai lets us play the lands off top of our library and play an additional one. Crucible Conduit of Worlds. We get to play the lands from our graveyard again. And then we can choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So if we get literally a dead hand and we've just got lands in hand, we've played out everything we can use this to basically cast something that's already been killed off. So yeah, makes sense to me. Scape Shift. Can you imagine all the triggers off Scape Shift in this deck? Ooh. Right, anyway, let you all think about that. It's strange, I must admit, Scape Shift is usually at home in a red-green deck. We know that, but having it in Abzan might be a surprise for some people. Nissa of the Shadowed Barrels. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a lordly counter on Nissa, and then we get to turn our lands into elemental creatures. Or we get to do the -5. You may put a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with a couple of +1/+1 counters on it. It's a great way of getting back some of the creatures that may have been killed off already as you've been playing the game. The other version of Hellish Norns in here, if a permanent entering the battlefield triggers an ability of a permanent you control trigger, it triggers additional time. Yep, should double trigger the landfalls then. Cool. Greensleeves, Marrow Sorcerer. Get those Badger tokens on the go. Or, multiple Badger tokens. It's all good. Invasion of Chandelar. I had to pick one of these up. Chandelar, if you all know, was the old Microprose game from back in the day. Love playing that. It's one of the best things I ever used to play on a PC. And I saw this card and I had to go and grab one. And this is the first deck I've tried to put it into. But I thought it was quite, actually in this deck it's not too bad. Getting 3 permanents from our graveyard back to our hand where things have been killed. And then if we can defeat the battle, which we should be able to, the amount of tokens and things we're creating, at the beginning of our upkeep, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Yeah, I'm not going to complain about it. It's going to be good. Right, Titania, Protector of Argoth is here. Return it land from the graveyard to the battlefield. Another way of getting a life. And whenever a land is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, you get 5/3 elemental. Yep, I'm happy. Renin 7 goes and fur into some lands to play, or we could just empty our whole hand of lands into play if we need to. And since I was playing I did about playing Thalia. I'm going to say this now, but I decided it's just doubling up. But having the Gitrog monster come in and sacrificing a land and playing an additional land, drawing some additional cards made sense to me. Hence why the original version of the Gitrog is here. Ancient Green Warden lets us do the whole thing from the graveyard playing the land. Excuse me. And, it triggers anything that caused by a land entering the battlefield again. So, doubles up quite nicely with some things. Rampaging Baloth, Avenger of Zendikar is a landfall deck. You didn't really not to expect to see them in here. Eerie Ultimatum. It helps us get everything back at some stage, and it's not too hard to cast this one, believe it or not. Torment of Hailfire is one of the last cards, or the penultimate card. There you go. Let's use the right terminology. Do the whole X thing. You should be able to get X up to quite a large number, which should win you the game with a bit of luck. If you're relying on playing this, you might want to change one of the lands out and put Besiege in, just to make sure you can get it off, but I think you'll probably be able to get it off if you time it right anyway. And finally, Invasion of Ikoria. When it enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human card with mana value X or less, and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle, and then you get to flip it, and each non-human creature you control may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Gives you a really good way, and I would really strongly recommend, if you manage to get this battle flipped, getting a Zerotha covered in a lightning greaves or some swiftfoot boots as soon as possible so you can keep it in play would be really good. But that's it. That's my personal take on Thalia, the Gitrog monster, and the Gitrog monster. Again, I'm really sorry it couldn't be anything more spectacular than what you were probably expecting it to be in a landfall trigger deck. But hey, if you're going to have a linear commander, you're going to have a linear commander, and this is one of the few I've seen recently. So hope you've hit the subscribe button. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you think I've missed out. And I'll catch up with you in the next video. Or come and see me on stream. Watch me play it. There's a link down below in the description. Take care. See you all soon. Bye.